Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Teckno Tuesday. I am Kendrick Bender, here along with
Phil Strangelove.
Wow.
And Justin Moss, also known as Plaid Daddy.
AJ Savopoulos.
No nickname.
I don't have a nickname. But
Not
Phil,
today.
that's a new nickname, that's for sure.
It's a James Bond reference.
So we're going to be doing a new show format. We're going to be starting off with things FTC related, just to get that stuff
Out of the way.
done, out of the way. Not really out of the way. We want to talk about it.
But just so we make sure we cover it every time.
Just so we make sure we get something FTC in the podcast, because one of them had like nothing to do with FTC at all.
So go first, Kendrick.
So one thing I found on the FAQ was that grounding strips, you may remember last year it was used a lot. In fact, I think it was recommended at Worlds last year and the year before maybe.
Yeah.
To put grounding strips on your robot to ground them with the field, and those are no longer legal, according to the FAQ.
Is there a recommended replacement method?
No, it just said grounding wires are no longer legal.
Why is that?
Because, well, at first
Clearly they didn't work.
yeah, they said
Well, they didn't work.
They didn't show any significant changes or improvements, is what the forum post said. So I don't know. I don't really actually know a reason for why they're illegal now, other than I guess a chance of entanglement.
Yeah, I wonder if someone got their wheels caught up all in their thing and went up into their gears or...
Or some referee got punctured in his hand while trying to pick up the grounding robot with a grounding strap.
That's true.
Either way, they're illegal now.
So take them off. So, we don't know what they're going to do about static. Some teams, some areas have had big troubles with static. I know one of our, sister teams, the Green Machine, they've done a lot of research and recommended all sorts of stuff. And apparently the Vex people spray down their fields with anti-static spray to eliminate static.
With being able to manufacture your own wheels, we could make grounding wheels.
Well, it's unclear as to
Metal
what's actually
wheels.
generating the static electricity. Cause,
Yeah.
if a grounding strap
wheels,
didn't have any effect, then conductive wheels aren't likely to have any great effect either. Although I do think the material of the wheels, and if the wheels are spinning, probably has something to do with, like if they're spinning on the carpet rather than rolling, I think it has something to do with it.
But in reality, the static shouldn't even really affect it as long as it can't get into the wiring anywhere, really.
Yeah, well, I think the problem is when you make contact with something, either a referee or a piece of ground in the playing field, that's when you get troubles and you get sparks jumping between the ground and the chassis. Or I discovered something the other day, actually, that the motor controllers, I always assumed that the NXT ground and the motor controller ground would be identical, but they're not. They're linked with a resistor, but they're really not the same thing. So I don't know what that's all about, but it may mean funny things on electrical ground.
Yeah, I think whenever they were doing the grounding, the biggest problem was it was frying people's NXTs at some point.
I think it would lock them up.
Yeah, it would, and it would either make it so they couldn't play the next game if it was bad enough, or it would just annoy lots of people.
Well, the mere fact that if someone touched it, or if they ran into another robot and it locked up their NXT partway through the game, I mean, that's bad enough.
Yeah.
That's really bad, actually.
And we saw that happen pretty often.
Many times.
There were lots of times where robots would just out of nowhere stop working after hitting another robot or something like that.
I have a real quick topic.
Okay.
What is your take on the no Wi-Fi signals at FTC competitions? I mean, do you really think it interferes with it, or?
Now, that was another clarification that I saw in the FAQ. I didn't put it in because I thought it was already known. They clarified that Bluetooth and Wi-Fi together, supposedly, you're supposed to be allowed to have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth in the pits, just not anywhere that competition is going on. Now, of course, different competitions have their own different specific rules, so what may be okay in one competition isn't okay in another one.
Yeah, but I remember in Delaware, the pits are the same room as competition rooms. So what are they going to do here? Yeah.
In which case, another competition-specific one, they would probably say no Wi-Fi or Bluetooth in the pits.
Now, do you think it actually affects it that much, or have you seen?
Well, one of the biggest things, I mean, there's only a limited bandwidth, and if everyone is on the same Wi-Fi channel, then too much traffic is going to start losing packets. I mean, it's a fact of life.
I was thinking we have one of those mobile hotspots for US Cellular, and I was wondering if you set one of those up, would it really interfere with the robots at all?
Well, it's not so much a matter of interfering with the robots. I mean, if it's on the same band as the robots are using, then if you've got 12 people connected to your hotspot, that's 12 slots of simultaneous communication that are being used up and taking away potential bandwidth that the robots could be using. There's only so many. We think of wireless as being infinitely go through everything and infinitely whatever, but it's not. I mean, everything's got energy limits, and if a strong signal is trying to get in and a weaker signal is trying to get in, the strong one's going to win. And so that's always going to be a problem. And if someone's wireless, their Samantha is shrouded a little bit, then maybe it's got poor strength in one direction. You don't want any more interference than you have. And in fact, the FTAs have some pretty cool software they run during the competitions that show all the simultaneous transmissions, all the energy being transmitted. They can look at all the different bands in the Wi-Fi and see where there's a lot of signal. And in fact, they can get down to the point where they can identify particular hotspots. They can say, well, there's the energy coming from a particular hotspot, and here's the name of that hotspot. That's why they chase them down in the pits sometimes, because they know that there's issues.
That's pretty cool.
So typically, I think it certainly won Maryland competition. They got really strict on shutting everyone down, and I imagine it's because they just had too much energy in the air, and they just that was all they could do to try and minimize it. So that's why it's hard to make a generic rule ahead of time, because you really don't know.
Yeah, no, because the worlds are probably going to be like, whatever, because it's a completely different building, or it's separated by metal.
But you've got 5 playing fields, 6 playing fields all running at the same time with Wi-Fi.
Yeah, so they're probably not going to let it in the pits.
Yeah, no.
They'll probably let it in the pits, but they probably won't. They'll definitely won't let it at the fields like
Correct.
always.
In past years, they did specify absolutely no Wi-Fi in the pits. I'm not sure actually if Bluetooth was fine, but
Well, Bluetooth is a lot
Wi-Fi
harder.
was.
Bluetooth is much lower energy, much shorter range, and not as big a problem. Although it is sharing some of the same band.
But does Bluetooth interfere with Wi-Fi?
Once again, it's in the same kind of band area.
Okay.
They're not meant to overlap, I don't think, but
They can.
once again.
Is it in world competition? They had guys going around with like Wi-Fi detectors or whatever.
Sniffers. Yeah.
Sniffers.
yeah.
And they have those, but it seemed like every once in a while, I guess people would just keep going on, and then no matter like what they say, they would keep connecting. Is there something to like shut down, like just straight over to the crowd, just straight over to the crowd, just shut it all down?
Well, if you get a good enough hacker, you could disable certain wireless as soon as they pop up. Just disable them.
Or use an EMP. Just
Or
knock
use an
out
EMP,
every
yeah.
electrical device.
Oh, yeah, that's really great. All those robots. Yeah, okay.
No, you point it.
Just
Let's
in the
get back
morning.
in the world of living here. Okay,
Just in the morning, they say, everyone turn your robots off. Anything important, just turn it off.
Okay.
And then,
So our recommendation is don't be the guy that has to be the exception, that has to think that their usage is better than everybody else's. Don't be that guy.
No
because-
one-
And if you do need to use it, go out into the pits. They normally have a Wi-Fi set up for people.
Yeah.
Practice
or go
with
out
the
into
usually set
outside
up.
the pits, go into the corridors, go get away.
Yeah.
Don't be the guy, because remember, if you're doing that now because you think it's okay and you're upsetting someone else's robot, when you're playing, someone's going to be doing it to you. So just don't do it. Resist the temptation.
I know it bothered me last year whenever people were doing it. And it, obviously, I thought it interfered with the robots, but it seems like there's always been some sort of problems with the FTA software. But
Wireless we think of wireless as being a precise thing, and
Yeah.
when you're just uploading and downloading packets, it's not quite so bad. But when you're trying to get real-time response to a robot that going to make or break your day, it's important.
I think we should go
Yeah.
back to USB.
And
You should go back to direct laser communication, which I have a topic about in a minute.
Do
so-
you?
I do,
Well,
yeah.
might as well
Yeah,
start
but
it off with that if
no-
you'd like.
no one cares about words with friends. That's not very important.
I know,
so-
just like
So-
and I just hope they don't do a interconnected multiplayer version of Cookie Clicker. That's all I want to say.
It's like a flash mob of Cookie Clicker.
That's right.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
Okay, so before we move off the topic of FTC,
so who here has actually read the manual for this year?
I have.
I have.
Okay, so everyone's actually read the manual.
So everyone here, but okay. So before we came on the air today, I decided I needed to do some research on the FAQs to see what's new and what's exciting, and I just get so sick of questions that are clearly answered in the manual, and I don't know how the moderators can tolerate it. Sometimes I get a little bit snipey and say, "Look, read the manual." But I'd put it stronger than that, but I can't, because this is like this is children could be watching this show. But seriously, guys, I want to do a call out to a couple of some teams here. Okay, Team 71. You should know by now you're allowed to use Velcro. Okay, if you have a question as to whether you're allowed to use Velcro, before you get your coach to post it on the FAQs, why don't you search for the word Velcro in the game manual number 1?
Just Control F. Control F.
Find Velcro. Another one. Springs. Okay, guys, we haven't been able to use them before. We can use them this year. If you want to know if you can use springs, search for the word springs in the manual. And part F will say, you are allowed to use springs. So you don't have to post it on the FAQs. Likewise, power connectors. No one should be posting, are we allowed to use different power connectors on our batteries? Yes, it says it in the rules. There's no interpretation required. So anyway, read the rules, guys.
Phil gets extremely upset whenever people don't read the rules and then ask questions.
More than anything, if you read the rules, there's these big sections about telling you stuff you can use. There's a whole lot of really great ideas in there. You can use linear slides. You can use this. You can use that. It should be filling everyone with ideas to build stuff. So
Suggestion. Kickoff day. This is what we do. Kickoff day. Everyone on the team, mentors, coaches, team members, read the rules. Read the rule book at least once. Kickoff day, because that lets you know this is what I can do. This is what I can't do. It may shut down a bunch of ideas just right away, which will save you a lot of time.
Yeah, and we go round table. We do like campfire things where everyone has to come up with one thing that they read in the rules that was interesting or they didn't know about, and that feeds on everybody else. And by the time you've done, you've exposed everyone to all the rules.
Or at least the large majority of them that apply.
At least the rules from the beginning. There's still the ones in the FAQ that you have to go through.
But
and
more
read
than
afterwards,
that, the manual part 1 was out before they even introduced the game. It was out a month before the game came out. That's where all these rules are. What you can use to build your robot was known well before the game came out. So everyone should know it. There's really no question. So if you've got anyone in your team that's asking questions like that, tell them to find where the manual is. That's a good lesson to learn. How do I find the manual? And then download it and read it. Put it on your Kindle, put it on whatever, and just read it.
I personally am really glad they allowed springs this year. I really like springs.
Yeah, springs are great. Springs are much better than rubber bands.
Or surgical tubing.
You youngins have it so good.
Oh, that's right.
Kendrick.
Back in my day, we were restricted to only the Tetrix parts.
Or bodily fluids. So you could use spit to keep your set screws in.
I remember when
we weren't even allowed to use Loctite.
Yeah,
Speaking of putting in set screws, be careful when you're using red Loctite. Do not put very much in because it can really mess up.
First off, we suggest against red Loctite.
Yeah, I agree. But if you need to hold something in that tight, make sure you use like one drop.
Well, perhaps
one drop on the set screw, not on the
difference between red Loctite and blue Loctite. What is that difference? Who knows?
Red is stronger.
Okay. Red is not designed to come off. Blue is designed to hold the set screws in, or the screws to lock the thread, but with a certain amount of force, it will release. It will break.
Okay.
Whereas red, the only way you get red off is by heating it.
Yeah, we found that out.
So
we kind of fried 2 encoders doing that.
Yeah, and some motors, and we're still living that one.
So
I'm never going to live that one down.
So blue Loctite only, and just a drop.
Just a drop on the set screw.
On the set screw,
it's
not
glue.
down the...
It's thread locker.
If you don't put it on the set screw, or if you use a lot of it, you will end up getting some Loctite in your encoders
and motors.
And motors and bearings and bushings. And
which will give you a headache when you cannot figure out why it's not working.
In competition like we did.
That's right.
And then out of nowhere you think, maybe we should check the encoders. So you check the encoders and find Loctite. All threads.
And the bushings are rotating with the axles instead of staying in place.
So aside from that, this is a topic that's on the same thing. What were some of the worst mistakes you guys have seen? I'm going to look at Justin for this one.
Within our own teams or within everybody's teams?
Let's do everybody's team.
Everybody's
the worst
team.
mistake you've seen in FTC. Period. Justin, start off with that.
I think I should name the place that we were at.
Sure.
Oh, okay. So this was a couple years ago. I wasn't on the team, but we were at the Delaware competition, I think. And, this one team decided to block their own team from scoring and sat there and thought that was the other team. And just sat there and kept blocking them. And then the other team was, like, yelling at them, but they weren't really paying attention, I guess.
So they weren't cooperating.
Yeah, they weren't cooperating whatsoever.
Yeah, without teamwork, you're not going to get far in FTC.
That's what I think one huge lesson that everybody should go over with your teammates. Not lesson, but you should say to your teammates, if I say something, take into consideration a little bit.
Work
at least
together.
at least be listening.
I'm interested to hear what Phil has to say
Yeah,
about
I
this.
am
Yeah.
too.
Well, I don't know. Now you guys keep going.
You need to go.
I might have to abstain on this
Okay.
one.
The one that I saw that we bring up time after time is whenever, I think this was at Worlds, maybe it was at Maryland, the robot on the crate year, the lifting the crates, would get up about halfway and then shoot up.
Oh.
And then a few of the times it would start tipping and then shoot towards the referees.
There were definitely some interesting designs at Worlds for that year. There were the ones that were spring loaded, would shoot up, and team number 7 was the biggest one that I remember. Tactical Sheep. Their scissor lift was going up. It started leaning to one side, wasn't quite going up, and all of a sudden something snapped inside the robot. Scissor lift shoots up the rest of the way. The robot comes a good foot off the ground at least. Comes back down and crashes down. Of course, that's not something you ever want to see or experience, but
Yeah.
kind of a spectacular end anyway.
Destruction.
So, quick shout out to team number 3415, Lancer Robotics.
Woohoo.
Who gave us our first comment on YouTube that was not from like our team members.
And it was positive as well. What a deal.
Positive feedback. Yeah, we like to hear your feedback, so leave a comment down below if you haven't already. Feedback is the best way for us to make this a little bit better.
Yeah, and then also if you have any questions, also leave those below. We'd like to discuss all kinds of random technology stuff.
We'd love
along
to
with FTC.
answer your question. Okay, so that's all the time we have for today. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. It's free.
Okay, so it's goodbye from Kendrick.
Goodbye from all of us here at Teckno Clover's headquarters. Teckno Tuesday.
Tech Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Thank you all for watching, and have a nice day.
Bye.